Hi, we're here on location on the show floor, and I'm with Jerry from Knit Knack in Old Town, Arvada, Colorado. And Jerry has a question.
Hi, I was wondering what is the best way to manage my yarns when I'm doing Intarsia?
That was a great question about dealing with yarns and color work. I'm working on a pair of the White Witch mitts here, so I thought that I would talk a little bit about just how to manage the difference between managing your yarns with different kinds of knitting with color. In stranded color work, which is what the White Witch mitts are, you typically have, you can have a lot of different variations, but in the Fair Isle style, you'll traditionally have only 2 colors in one row. And there are a number of different ways that you can hold your yarns for that. The way that I like to work is by holding 1 yarn in each hand. So you'll hold 1 yarn in your left hand, and just get my needle set up here, hold the other in your right hand. So you're going to be knitting in both styles here. You're going to be both picking your stitches up out of your left hand and also throwing your stitches with your right. This method has the advantage of being a little bit faster to work since both yarns are always in play, and your tension is going to be pretty even, especially if you practice so that you're equally proficient with both right and left. What you can also do is, if you're more comfortable working with one hand over the other or knitting in one style rather than the other, you can just pick up the color of yarn that you need right now, knit the stitches that you need with that, and then drop that yarn and pick up the other yarn with the same hand. This method is a little bit slower since you're constantly stopping and starting, but if you're more comfortable with one hand over the other, then it's definitely the way to go. What you are going to want to remember to do is to keep your yarns in the same position. So that just means deciding which yarn will be coming from the bottom and which yarn will be coming from the top, and always pick them up in that order. So if my gray yarn is always coming from the bottom, I'll want to always pick it up from underneath the blue yarn. And the blue yarn, I'll always want to pick it up from over the gray yarn. And that'll just keep your stitches a little bit more even throughout the work. Now in Intarsia, you have a little bit of a different thing going on. You can see that in Intarsia, don't want to lose my stitch there, you can have a lot of different colors in any one row. In the same row here, we've got blue, pale blue, light gray, and dark gray. And you're using different sections of yarn for every separate section of color. I'm going to show you the back of the work real quickly. And you can see here, I've already started weaving in the ends, but there are no strands or floats from color to color. So even though these 2 sections of blue are the same shade of blue, I'm not using the same yarn and stranding it across here. It does create for a little bit more finishing, and you have a lot more yarn ends to deal with. So you can either make tiny little finger bobbins like these and keep them very close to the back of the work and just manually untangle them when you need to. Or my favorite way to do it is to just use about meter lengths of yarn, and that way those are short enough so that even when they get tangled, and they will get tangled, even when they get tangled, they're short enough to just draw through when you need them. So every once in a while you'll just want to stop and periodically reorganize your yarns and just make sure that you know where everything is and that you haven't lost anything. And as always with Intarsia, you're always going to want to interlock your yarns, twist your yarns between any 2 stitches of different colors, which closes up the gap and gives you a nice seamless knitting surface. It unfortunately also creates all the tangles. But I hope we answered your question.
Knitting daily. Make time for yarn every day. Projects, patterns, ideas, and techniques from today's show to help you make time for yarn every day can be found on the web at knittingdailytv.com.